Yeah.
Back to our old student days માં પહોંચી ગયા.
Yeah.
Best days, na? Best days of life.
Yes, best days of life.
I understand Gujarati little but can't.
माझा मराठी बराबर माहित आहे.
तुम्हाला मराठी येतं, मला पण.
मला समजण बराबर पडलं.
Hello, madam.
Hello.
I'm Hina.
Yeah, nice meeting you.
Same.
I have been मैं दोनों कॉन्फ्रेंस को आई थी आपकी, मतलब अहमदाबाद में भी आई थी और बीच में 1-2 बार PCPND तक का वो from the government of India I came there for Surat.
अच्छा.
For that inspection it was so
that.
quite close, many people.
Mumbai otherwise also very close.
Yeah. So
મેં કેવું પડશે દીપ્તિ હમણાં આવીને ગઈએ. Kishore, technical team. Hello.
Yes, sorry. Yes, madam.
Yeah, you have that Deep Pragatya वाला जो last में लिया था, last उसमें वाला.
Sorry.
मैं भेज दूं वो दिया जला.
Last time, yeah, I have.
You have ना? हाँ बस तो then मेरा शुरू होने से मेरा खत्म करने के बाद वो शुरू कर. बस सही है. मैं वेलकम वर्बल कर दूं, उसके बाद ये दिया का करेंगे.
Sure, madam.
ठीक है. फिर then I'll hand over to Shashwat.
Sure.
ठीक है done.
It is 7:30 now.
Yeah, one faculty had joined. Wait, let me call Dipti to join because she has to be here. Oh. Dipti resident ने लागी गयो. Dipti Baroda. चल बेन चालू करिए छिए. Okay, Dipti is getting logged in. Then we start. Shashwat.
Yes, ma'am.
બસ એક હવે ચાલુ આ લોકો રિવર્સ કાઉન્ટિંગ કરશે ને 10 સેકન્ડ નું, એટલે આપણે ચાલુ કરી દો, વાંધો નથી. Technical team.
Yeah, so we can start in 3, 2, 1, 0, start.
I request Dr. Shashwat Jani to start the program. Dr. Shashwat. Okay, I can start. On behalf of Ahmedabad Obstetrics and Gynecological Society, I, Dr. Rajal Thakur, President, welcome you all the students who have joined across, students of several medical colleges across India who have joined us, respected AOGS members, respected faculty, Dr. Hina Oza, Dr. Deepti Modi, Dr. Rajashri Katke, Dr. Haresh Doshi, Dr. Uma Singh, Dr. Jitesh, students of GCS Medical College and students of BJ Medical College. I welcome you all. I also welcome my respected teachers, Dr. Deepesh B. Dodakia and Dr. C.B. Nagori for their kind presence. And I also welcome all the AOGS members, other faculties who have joined this program. With this, I request the technical team to start the Deep Pragatya video. Technical team, yeah.
कल्याणं आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः
शुभं कुरु त्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तु ते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तु ते शुभं कुरु त्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरु त्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः
With this small deep pragatya ceremony, I just want to convey that this is the second webinar of this PG case presentation series. Today we are going to have a case, gynec case on fibroid, and another case, obstetric case on anemia. Over to you, Shashwat, for the further proceedings.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry for the disconnection, madam.
That's okay. I'll just start.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would like to invite Dr. Dipesh Dhodakia, sir, senior obstetrician and gynecologist and past AOGS president, to give his blessing for this our AOGS PG symposium. Sir has always been a faculty and in our AOGS PG program, and sir was the associate professor of NHL Medical College also. So I request Dr. Dipesh Dhodakia, sir, to give his blessings to students. Sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shashwat, for kind words. Respected AOGS President, Dr. Rajal Ben, Secretary, Dr. Sunil Bhai, all AOGS committee members, and all the faculties of today's PG Symposium. I welcome you all my dear students. I was previously Associate Professor in NHL Municipal Medical College. So I am very much fond of keep with all the students, and I am always enjoy my curriculum during that period. We welcome all the dear friends here on this platform of today. Though it's an era of COVID, still AOGS, SOGOG, and our beloved Foxy, we always try to give this curriculum and all the teaching program to our dear students during this time also. And AOG is always keeping such programs, PG Symposium, PG Lecture Series, and this force program, and all the CMEs for our benefit of our students of PG. And we always have these new techniques and new things which comes in our obstetric care, and in gynec also we are keep touch with the new scientific upcoming. So this is the one part of this program, and I welcome all of you, and I just give some advice to my students that don't forget the art of obstetrics. We all are obstetricians, so don't go all the cases just behind the LSCS. Obstetric is very artistic thing. You have to learn this art of breech delivery, art of manual removal of placenta, and also all the obstetric procedure you have to learn. We should be have our LSCS rate as minimum as possible. And in this era of this scientific development, we must have all the this artistic thing, because obstetric in from ancient times we learn this obstetric art, and we are very lucky that we first touch to the baby as a obstetrician which comes in this world. So we are very lucky, and you just continue your hobby of obstetric care to our patients, and always in this era to decrease the neonatal morbidity and mortality, as well as maternal morbidity and mortality. We are very much fond of obstetrics. We are loving in to work in such teaching institute to and also follow to our next generation to teach this art of obstetrics. So with these words, I give my wholehearted blessings to all the students and all the best for the coming exam. And please, all the my students, please be very much motherly care to our patients and tender loving care to the our patients. This is my advice. We are doctors and we should be always very touchy to the patients and help to the patients. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir, for excellent advice to our students. Sir, it's a very if we are very lucky if we can watch your vaginal surgery, sir. And sir is always on the top for any obstetric emergency in Ahmedabad. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Now I would like to play the video blessings of Dr. Chaitanya Nagori, sir, because he is right now busy with some other webinar of ISAR. So technical team is playing the video of Dr. Chaitanya Nagori, sir.
Extremely happy to know that Ahmedabad Obstetric and Gynec Society has organized the symposium for the PG students. This is an excellent activity carried out by the AOGS for the exam going students. By doing such activities, the stress to the exam going student is totally relieved and they get just the practice of the examination. I congratulate for such activity to all AOGS organizers, especially Dr. Rajal Thakur as well as Dr. Sunil and all the coordinators like Munjal and the Sashwat. Please continue such activities which are very beneficial to the candidates, and I wish you the brilliant success for this activity.
Thank you, Dr. Chaitanya Nagori, sir. Thank you, Dipesh sir and Chaitanya sir. Now I would like to start with the case. So for the first case of the fibroid, we have eminent faculties, Dr. Hina Oza madam. Dr. Hina Oza madam is additional professor, Bijay Medical College, Civil Hospital, Ahmedabad, and she is very senior and having experience of almost more than 20 years of experience. So I welcome Dr. Hina Oza madam. Second faculty is Dr. Dipti Modi madam. She is additional professor, SSG Hospital, Baroda Medical College, Baroda. Welcome Dr. Dipti Modi madam. And third is Dr. Rajashri Katke madam. She is from the head of the department and senior professor of obstetrics and gynec, Grant Medical College, Sir JJ Hospital, Mumbai. I invite Dr. Rajashri Katke madam. And our team of students are from the Bijay Medical College. One is, there are 4 students. First is Dr. Jalpa Rathod, Dr. Riddhi Mehta, Dr. Saif Ali Shah, and Dr. Vival Lobo. So we are starting with the case of the fibroid. Technical team, please start the video, PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, it's shared by from students.
Yeah. Students of Bijay Medical College, please. Yeah.
Students,
Yes,
you
Jalpa.
unmute your mic because the student's mic seems to be muted. Jalpa, tamaru mic unmute karo. Yeah, and full screen.
Full screen, please. Yes. Start.
Good evening, everyone. I'll be presenting a case on a patient. We are presenting a case of a 35-year-old female, para 3, living 3, housewife, belonging to middle socioeconomic status, residing at Ahmedabad, who came to hospital on 8th January with chief complaints of abdominal pain since 10 days. Patient was apparently asymptomatic 10 days back, after which she developed pain over lower abdomen, which was insidious in onset, gradually progressing in nature, dilating, non-radiating, no aggravating or relieving factors. There was no complaint of abdominal distension or foul smelling discharge PV, no history of fever, no history of amenorrhea or any dysmenorrhea, no complaint of increased frequency of micturition or burning micturition or any voiding difficulties. There was no complaint of constipation or tenesmus. There was no complaint of dyspareunia. No complaint of mass descending PV. Patient had no complaints of breathlessness, palpitation, easy fatigability, loss of weight or appetite. Her menstrual history, age of menarche was 14 years. LMP was 7th of January. Her menstrual history is a regular 28 to 30 day cycle with a flow of 1 to 2 days, which is moderate and painless. In obstetric history, she is a third para patient with no abortions and live issue is 3. She has history of 3 full-term normal vaginal deliveries. Last childbirth was 12 years back. Patient had undergone abdominal tubal ligation after the last delivery. In past history, there was no history of thyroid disorder, hypertension, diabetes, epilepsy, asthma, or any drug intake or surgeries or blood transfusion in the past. Her family history was non-significant. On personal history, she consumes a non-vegetarian diet with normal sleep, normal bowel and bladder habits, with no addictions present.
On general examination, patient is conscious, well oriented into time, place, and person. Her height, weight were normal and BMI within normal limit. Her temperature was normal. She is vitally stable. ECM were pink. There is no lymphadenopathy, no cyanosis, no clubbing. Breast, thyroid, and spine examination was clinically normal. On systemic examination, in cardiovascular system examination, both heart sound were heard. No murmur was present. On respiratory system examination, vesicular breath sound were heard, no added sound were present. On CNS examination, there is no neurological deficit. On per abdominal examination, in inspection, abdomen is having normal contour with no distension is seen. Umbilicus is in midline with inverted shape. Transverse abdominal TL scar was seen, which is healthy. All quadrant move equally with respiration. There is no distended vein and visible pulsation. On palpation, inspectory finding were confirmed. There is no local raise of temperature, soft and non-tender, no guarding, no rigidity, no hepatosplenomegaly. On pulse speculum examination, spotting is present as patient is in menses, cervix is healthy, and no other any deformities were present. On bimanual examination, uterus is anteverted, uterine size can't be made out, and firm smooth mass felt in pouch of Douglas, which is around 10 week size, extending to left at an axa. Mobility is restricted and non-tender. On her investigation profile, her complete blood count was normal. RFT-LFT was within normal limit, and her tumor marker was done, which were within normal limits. On transabdominal sonography, large heterogeneous solid-looking mass of more than 10 into 8 into 7 centimeter, adherent to the subserosal surface of the uterus, along with the lateral and posterior aspect, shows internal vascularity. Myometrial echo-endometrial strip appeared normal, measuring 8 mm, suggestive of a large pediculated subserosal fibroid likely. However, tubo-ovarian mass cannot be ruled out. On transvaginal sonography, uterus was normal size, right-sided ovary appeared normal, and adnexa was clear. Left-sided solid mass occupying pouch of Douglas, approximately 8 into 7 centimeter. Left ovary was not visualized and origin of mass cannot be made out. Intraoperatively, adhesions were present between the omentum and the uterus with right side ovary and fallopian tube. Mass was seen to be originating from the posterior wall of uterus near the uterosacral ligament on the left side between two leaves of the broad ligament. Removal of the broad ligament fibroid and total abdominal hysterectomy with right-sided salpingio was done. On histopathological examination, multiple sections were taken from the mass which were suggestive of the histology of leiomyoma. There was no evidence of Koch dysplasia or malignancy. This was the intraoperative picture of this patient, suggestive of the mass originating from the left side of uterosacral ligament.
Summary: a 35-year-old para-3 live-3 admitted to civil hospital with complaint of abdominal pain since 10 days. On bimanual pelvic examination, from smooth mass felt in pouch of Douglas around 10 week size, extending to left adnexa. Mobility was restricted, non-tender. USG suggestive of left-sided solid mass occupying POD approximately 8 by 7 centimeter. On PARO, mass was seen to be originated from posterior wall of uterus near uterosacral ligament on the left side between the two leaves of broad ligament, suggestive of broad ligament fibroid, which was confirmed by histopathology report. Thank you.
Very good. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Huh.
Yes.
So your clinical diagnosis.
Hina, just a second. Technical team, please close the PPT.
PPT, please close, Kandij.
Go ahead with the
yes.
discussion. Yeah.
Your case is a broad ligament fibroid. Okay,
Yes.
broad ligament. So, what is the origin of this fibroid?
Ma'am, this fibroid was seen to be originating from the uterus, from the uterine surface, posterior surface of the uterus.
So, was it connected with the uterus, on because you have
Yes.
removed? Connected.
Yes, connected with the uterus.
What is
It actually arises left uterosacral ligament in between two uterosacral ligament its origin, and it encircles whole of the uterus from left to right, and from right side it is attached at the level of isthmus.
So, what
So
is
it
about
was,
one?
It was arising from the posterolateral aspect of the uterus.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Yes.
how did you, during the surgery, how did you remove it?
There were additions that were present now, which were removed. After that, first the uterine clamp, the corner clamps were attached, and after transfixing the corner structures, while dissecting the uterine artery, we saw that the structure was arising from the posterolateral surface.
So, it is a pseudo false broad ligament fibroid,
Exactly.
and another is the true broad ligament fibroid. So, how the anatomy is changed in between the true broad ligament fibroid and the false broad ligament fibroid?
True broad ligament fibroid, it is originating from the myocytes of the arising from the broad ligament. So there is no connection between uterus and this fibroid. While
Can you?
I wanted.
Can you
madam.
tell me what are the differential diagnosis of the adnexal masses? Because this is a retrospective diagnosis. What you have, what you are saying is a pseudo or the true broad ligament. The patient has presented with the symptoms of lower abdominal pain, and now you are finding a mass which is stuck up in a POD. So what are the differential diagnoses it comes to your mind?
Ovarian, it may be tubo-ovarian mass, it may be chocolate cyst, it may be dermoid cyst, it may be chronic ectopic pregnancy.
Can you differentiate it on the clinical examination before you are sending into the ultrasound?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So how you will differentiate it?
Ma'am, in
And a
ultrasound,
clinical
it is solid
diagnosis.
structure.
Yes. Yes. I can't hear you, girls.
Ma'am, if the mass is originating from the ovary, then there'll be a cleft that will be present between the uterus and the ovary. In case of a mass originating from the uterus, this groove sign won't be present.
That is
and
one.
Even on abdominal examination.
Yeah, that is one thing. Second,
on abdominal examination, the lower part of the mass won't be felt in case of a mass that is originating from the uterus.
And transmitting of the movements also adnexal masses. So once clinically provisional diagnosis was a adnexal masses, how will you evaluate it with the imaging modalities in that? So what I would like to ask you, how the broad ligament fibroid and how the ovarian, it will look, these masses on the TVS sonography or transabdominal sonography. So how we should come to the diagnosis?
Then on when we done the transabdominal sonography, in which the mass is looking solid with no cystic areas, which is heterogeneous in echogenicity. While if it is an ovarian mass, it is cystic with maybe solid or cystic, and in between and the papillary projections were there, or something. If it is chocolate cyst, there were different kind of internal echoes was present.
So basically on a TVS, if you go for that, you will see the site of the origin. This is not a very huge mass, so you will be able to see the endometrial echo, and then you can go to the adnexal masses if ovary is there. In ovary, if you will get a simple cystic masses or simple cystic with the solid component, and you have rightly said there could be a papillary excretions or there could be intracystic hemorrhages. If you give the Doppler effect, there will be any,
vascularity.
Fertility index. After that, you have come to the conclusion that this is the uterine origin. So uterine, I mean, this is a smooth muscle tumor, you know, it is attached to the. So now I would like to ask you, what is a true broad ligament and what is a pseudo broad ligament, and how it will be, you know, what precautions one should take while operating such cases, because I am worried when there is a broad ligament fibroid.
But before that, we have to see about the symptoms of the patients. Not only the investigation, but we have to see the symptoms. If there is a ovarian mass, there are the symptoms. So how your symptoms correlate with your findings? What are the symptoms? Generally, a fibroid uterus has, what are the symptoms with the fibroid uterus have?
Heavy menstrual bleeding.
Dysmenorrhea can be present.
There could be pressure symptoms that is produced by the uterus.
Nay, can a broad ligament fibroid gives a dysmenorrhea? If it gives a dysmenorrhea, what is the type? If it gives a dysmenorrhea, then what is the type of that dysmenorrhea?
So you have to rule out. You have to rule out by symptoms and ovarian.
Patient had no menstrual problems. So
no
when she had no menstrual problems with the fibroid, what would the type of fibroid?
It could be subserosal pedunculate fibroid. It could be a broad ligament fibroid, cervical fibroid.
Can you get a dysmenorrhea in a broad ligament fibroid? I say you can get a dysmenorrhea. Then what is that type of dysmenorrhea?
It is mostly spasmodic.
Spasmodic, congestive.
Spasmodic or a congested. It could be a congestive, because you will get pelvic congestion around the fibroid, and sometimes fibroid, such huge fibroid, it can compress to the ischemic level, and you may get a pain also because of the stretching of the nerve endings. That is how you can go for this, you know, site specific and the size specific fibroids in that. So I think in a broad ligament, now I think symptomatology we have seen, but the most important part is that where you have not mentioned, she has a broad ligament fibroid, and I was expecting that she should have some of the urinary symptoms for that. It has not been evaluated in the this thing in the history much, you know, because if you get a huge fibroids, it may compress the ureter, or it may give at least pressure symptoms, and that can rise to the fullness into the.
And I think also the mass is in a pouch of Douglas. So in a pouch of Douglas, when the mass is present, it may give pressure on the rectum, and patient may have sometimes rectal tenesmus because of that pressure on the rectum. Sometimes that is a rectal tenesmus. Sometimes the patient may have precipitated with a diarrhea. No? Okay,
Yeah,
so
it can actually, because the posterior fibroids, they press on the colonic wall or the rectum. The anterior, they give the bladder symptoms. The lateral, they give rise to the you know, ureteric more compression of the ureters. But if it is a huge fibroid, it is very difficult to differentiate it in between the ovarian and the fibroid uterus. Again, they may present with the vague symptoms or the many more pressure symptoms also. Or they may, if the fibroid is into the uterine cavity, and if it is a huge, then they can present either with the menstrual complaints or the infertility complaints and all, it depending upon the site and the size of the fibroid. So now my question is, what is a true broad ligament fibroid? What is a pseudo broad ligament fibroid? And why we have? What is the importance of applied surgical knowledge of these two? So simple question for the students. I don't know the name of first we could have introduced them, but sorry, but I can ask you, what are the names, please?
Good evening, ma'am. My name is Dr. Riddhi.
My name is Dr. Jalpa, ma'am. My son Dr. Shefali.
Okay.
My name is
Jalpa
Dr.
Shefali. Anyone can answer for my questions, because yeah.
See, you have already answered pseudo and true broad ligament. Now the clinical implication, why you should know that.
Uterus. So the ureters, so pseudo broad ligament fibroids will be arising from the uterus. So that is why the ureters will be displaced laterally.
Okay.
Yes.
So what happens in a true broad ligament? I think they
anatomy in relation to both uterine artery and ureter.
And the uterine artery.
What
happens to it? Is displaced medially or laterally?
displays in case of false pseudo broad ligament.
Can you please remove your mask for a while so can we can listen clearly?
Because the voice is echoing. I think.
So tell about the anatomy of the uterine vessels and the ureter in relation to the true and false broad ligament fibroid.
In case of true broad ligament fibroid, ureter are it is anatomical site at medial to between the uterus and fibroid. In case of pseudo broad ligament fibroid, as it is arising from the uterus, it displays the uterine artery and ureter laterally to both uterus and mass and fibroid.
So suppose if you want to do a hysterectomy for such patient, how you will get approach? I want to do a hysterectomy of a patient who has a broad ligament fibroid, and how I should do? Yeah, if you are operating surgeon, how you will approach?
So first tell about your case, that is pseudo. So and then about the true. Tell in both the concepts.
Yeah, both the. So how you will explain that?
In case of true broad ligament fibroid, first of all, incision should be kept on anterior broad ligament, anterior layer of broad ligament, and after removal of the fibroid, hemostasis is achieved, and check for the ureter and
yeah, I know it will be difficult for you because you are saying theoretical, but we would like to just highlight the thing is that whenever if you get a distorted anatomy in that, catch over the round ligament, hold the round ligament, go to the folds of the broad ligament, just open the peritoneum of the broad ligament, see exactly site, and before doing any enucleation of this myoma, just see where it is going at the upper border, where it is going to the lower and the lateral border, and try to enucleate it. Don't try to avulge it, don't pull with the myoma screws, because what happens, these boundaries may form because with the either the ureter laterally or the vessels the medially, or they may abate the major vessels if it is broad. Sometimes you may get avulge one of the bleeders and then we will be in a mess. So try to get a plane in that, and then you try to enucleate it, see the anatomy properly, see the bleeders, and if you can see the any arterial bleeders are there, then you can tie that. Any ooze is there, you compress those things, and then after that you proceed. Everything should be under vision when you are going to the broad ligament fibroid, operating. Never be in a hurry, never catch the clamps wherever you feel like doing is that we should not do.
And the most important thing while operating on the fibroid, stay within the capsule of fibroid. Stay within that capsule. If you go outside the capsule or you will break the capsule, then there are risk of injuring the surrounding structures. So anytime you are removing, either enucleating the cervical fibroid or enucleating broad ligament, true broad ligament fibroid, stay within the capsule to prevent the damage to the surrounding structures.
Okay, my one question is that can this patient come with a acute condition, and which are those?
Yes, ma'am.
She came with acute condition if torsion is occur.
There can be acute retention of urine.
Okay.
Torsion in broad ligament fibroid.
Degeneration into fibroid.
Hemorrhage.
Torsion in subserosal fibroid.
There can be infection, or there can be hemorrhage. Capsular rupture can be present.
Degeneration
is the one.
So what types of degeneration? Sarcomatous, yes. Hemorrhage, degenerative changes, sarcomatous changes, acute retention of urine, this patient come with. Okay. So what are the degenerative changes?
There can be hyaline degeneration, cystic,
fat necrosis.
If this is a young patient, what degeneration you will expect in her? Young
hyaline
patient.
degeneration or cystic degeneration.
Young patient. Okay, suppose she has a red degeneration, she is a young patient, your fibroid is small. How will you manage that?
Conservative
I mean,
Giving antibiotics and analgesics.
IV fluid support, rest, analgesic, and conservative management.
conservative treatment.
So,
And suppose yeah, there is a huge fibroid is that, and young patient, she want a fertility and all, you want to do a myomectomy for her, you know, and I want to reduce the size of the fibroid so that I should not have a more bleeding. In that, I want to be very comfortable while operating in OT.
both
So
size and vascularity, both we want to reduce.
vascularity. Can we give something so that it will reduce the size? What madam has said rightly, you have to reduce the vascularity and reduce the size of that. Is it possible?
Yes, ma'am, it is possible by giving GnRH agonist.
Okay. How does the GnRH analog helps in reducing the vascularity?
Ma'am, actually it shut down the hypopituitary axis and which
Hypopituitary, hypothalamus.
Hypothalamus axis. It causes decrease in the level of estrogen and progesterone, and causes
Okay.
endometriosis.
So what it
So
how it
ultimately what?
vascularity?
There's decrease in the there's atrophy and there is decrease in the vascularity of the.
In
How
the
long he will give?
are getting the hyperplastic condition, hypervascularity, and that effect of the estrogen has been reduced in that, you know, because of the negative feedback mechanism, and you will get a reduction of the fibroid size and reduction into the vascularity. But it has to be given for the minimum 3 doses, 3 months. People are saying 6 months. But 3 months is because this can again cause the osteopenia or the osteoporosis. So people are tried to give with the added back therapy. But in my experience, we just give for 3 doses if it is required in that. And after that, we can plan for the surgery. This is I'm telling because here what we have operated the fibroids where the patient has, you know, I took it out 9 kg broad ligament fibroid. So these are very vascular like things, you know, they look like a sarcomatous. We have operated leiomyomosarcomas and all those things. So in those conditions, sometimes you have to reduce the size of this thing. And
but in which cases you need to reduce the size? What are the indications of this?
Very much
Students.
vascular. Hey, these,
I'm asking, no, not madam. You.
Jalpa, madam is asking you in which cases you will reduce
you
the
need a GnRH
vascularity.
When the patient is anemic.
The patient is in the perimenopausal period, or if she is.
And mainly in cases of the myomectomy, in a case of the myomectomy, when you want to do only myectomy and conserve the uterus in a reproductive age group, you can give the GnRH analogs to reduce the size of the fibroid.
So what are the advantage and disadvantage of giving this GnRH agonist?
Advantage is it decreases the
vascularity, the size. Disadvantage is that it causes osteoporosis and osteopenia.
Only that. Only what osteoporosis and osteopenia. Only one
Jalpa,
disadvantage.
Jalpa.
आवाज जतो रहे जल्पा
वीडियो તમારો નથી જલ્પા
શેફાલી જલ્પા વિવાહ
where is the video
here is ma'am
are you audible
we can't see your video
you are audible but not visible
maybe they must have touched the stop video, you just on it Jalpa
yes ma'am
आपको वो स्टॉप वीडियो का बटन है ना उसको पे कुछ हो गया होगा सो स्विच ऑन दैट एक्चुअली वी कांट सी
शेफाली वी कांट सी
हम आप हमको नहीं दिख रहे हो तो डू समथिंग इन योर दिस वीडियो पैनल
स्क्रीन में नीचे વિડિયો નું એક સિમ્બોલ છે એના ઉપર ક્રોસ થઈ ગયું હોય તો એને ફરીવાર સિલેક્ટ કર એટલે તારું ચાલુ થઈ જાય
yes
another is Riddhi Riddhi and Vival
Riddhi સિમ્બોલ ને ચાલુ કરે છો
nice Gujarati madam
thank you या कनेक्शन में कुछ प्रॉब्लम है क्या इनका मे बी बिकॉज ऑफ दैट आल्सो समटाइम्स they don't get
without video if there is sometimes there is
yes
connectivity issue. If you stop the
Yes,
video,
we can,
the connection
we
gets
can,
better.
we can continue with that.
Yes.
Continue with the GNRH. Yeah?
What are the disadvantage? अभी वो वॉइस भी चला गया लगता है.
मुझे लगता है they have मैडम उनका वो नेट चला गया.
Logged in, madam. They
Ah,
logged.
आ गए they have back.
Welcome back.
Yeah. They have logged in.
Unmute कर दो. Unmute.
Unmute yourself.
Sorry, ma'am.
Ah, okay. Then start with the GNRH. Na? You were telling something about GNRH.
The advantage of GNRH is that it reduces the size, the vascularity, and it can change the mode.
Hey, Hina madam asked you about advantages and disadvantages. Na? Again, they are lost.
So nearing to menopause, it can even completely shrink the size of the tumor also. Disadvantages is that it can, it is expensive. It can cause vasomotor symptoms like hot flushes, osteopenia. These are the disadvantages.
When the trabecular bone loss starts, that is usually after the 6 months of the therapy. No? So you can give them add-back therapy with estrogen, progesterone, low dose. Okay.
Okay, now tell me what are the complications, surgical complications while doing the these thing operations, either hysterectomy or the myomectomy of the broad ligament fibroid, or your case where you have seen it, what could be the surgical complications for that, and how you should prevent also, and how you should tackle also if it happens.
First of all, uncontrolled bleeding. For that, myomectomy we have to convert it myomectomy into hysterectomy. Uncontrolled bleeding. For subserosal, we can enter into endometrial cavity with the myomectomy operation.
Why you want to enter
the bladder?
endometrial cavity? Why you want to enter that? Ideally, you should not enter the endometrial cavity. You know, you can go into the capsule, as Dr. Dipti madam said. So you should be within the capsule. If you get the capsule, the plane is very important in that. Then
Damage to the surrounding structures like the ureters, the bladder.
injury.
okay, you want to prevent ureteric injuries. Can you do something for the
Stenting can be done.
Ureteric stenting can be done
pre-operatively.
Okay, suppose you do the stenting in that. How will you prevent the injuries during operation?
By palpating the
palpate किया है stent कभी ureter के साथ में? Have you palpated?
Best way to prevent the injury is to know the anatomy of the ureter, proper dissection, proper dissection and identification.
One thing is that if you are an expert surgeon, go through the trace the ureter from the upside to the below to the insertion.
From the pelvic.
You lateralize the ureter and then you apply the clamps. And you suppose if you are not able to do that, then go for a stenting. So what is the disadvantage of stenting? Sometimes if you put a stent, that you will feel the firm things, but the ligaments also will feel the same thing. But the thing is that you will not able to see the peristalsis, you know, when you put the stent in that. So whenever it is there, if you put a stent, if you don't put a stent also, following the surgical planes are very important while operating into the broad ligament. Uterus में ठीक है, कहीं पे भी clamp लगाओ, it will come with the hysterectomy. I mean toward the uterus side. But if you are going through the broad ligament, am I right, Dr. Dipti madam?
Yes, yes, madam.
I'm just telling to them, you know.
That's good.
Should always be, you know, with the surgical plane and anatomical plane. So whenever you are learning, when you are in residency, please observe. Surgery can be learned by observing, assisting, seeing the surgeries, and lately by doing the surgeries. So
and nowadays the availability of this self-eliminating ureteric catheters.
Catheters are there, and there also you can go in that actually.
Self-eliminating. So it will be better for the new operating for the
operating in that if you have a facility of that, you know.
If the facility is available.
Now, how will you plan for the management? How will you plan for?
Uma Singh madam, namaste. Dr. Uma Singh, madam is audible?
No, but she is not unmuted.
Yes,
I think her video is. Okay.
Yes, I am here.
अरे hi. कैसे? Good to see you. अच्छा.
We will.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
We will investigate.
How will you plan for management?
We will investigate the patient, ma'am. We'll do her complete
So
blood
what other, so investigation you have done sonography, na?
Yes,
What
ma'am.
other investigation will be needed?
Tumor marker test, adnexal mass, rule out the ovarian mass.
Would you, I mean, what Dr. Hina I wanted to tell you that, madam, your madam, would you like to see the course of the ureter? Would you like to see the indentation and your the bladder? Would you like to see whether there is a plane in between your colon or the rectum and the mass which is not been diagnosed? You know,
CT scan test.
they are the tentative that. Okay, so you have to see what is the site, what is the extent, what is whether the fat planes are maintained or not in that, whether the course of the ureter is maintained in the direction or it has been displaced or adherent, whether the mass is abetting the great vessels, that we should look into the, that will give the exact idea in that. Okay, now I will you ask, if you have a facility of CT scan and the MRI, what you will prefer
What
to do?
is, yes.
Why?
MRI is the first case of fibroid.
Why? Fibroid looks better on MRI, you meant to say?
Soft tissues.
Huh?
For soft tissues, we usually prefer MRI.
One by one.
Prefer is a different thing. I want a scientific answer. I have both CT scan and
Why you
MRI.
choose for the MRI and not for the USG, or why you choose for the USG and not for the MRI?
Yes, right.
See, she was a very poor patient. Huh? She wasn't have money, even any invest for
Now
any
you have all
investigation.
the resources available. Now you tell.
No, but that's why I'm asking. If what is important, that you should go for that investigation.
In MRI, there is a demarcation in T2 weighted slides. There is specific demarcation between normal myometrium and fibroid cell tissue. So the specific confirmed diagnosis.
The planes can be made out
Okay.
better
So
in MRI.
you will fill the anatomical levels, plane, soft tissue structure, extension. That will be easy with MRI. You would like to say, I fully agree.
Fibroid mapping is better with MRI than the USG.
But still, I want to ask you, I want to do a CT scan. So which cases of the fibroid I will prefer to go for a CT scan than the MRI? If you answer fine. If you don't answer, this is not the question of your level, but
Fibroid with calcified degeneration.
suppose they have so much of the sarcomatous changes in that, and you would like to see for the lymph nodes and the more extension, and your bowel and all, you want that cross-sectional plane, then you should go for this CT scan in that, where it will give the idea about how to go ahead with the surgical plane. So otherwise, people are very, very happy with the ultrasound and the Doppler effects. For such tumors, if the radiologist is very much experienced in that, and in a difficult cases where the things are mimicking like a fibroid, and you have a difficult differential diagnosis, go with the imaging modalities. But human, your touch examination and the patient's presentations, they are more important than all these additive things.
So what with this investigations, how will you decide? Suppose this patient is asymptomatic. She is just only lower abdominal pain for 10 days only. So suppose it is asymptomatic fibroid, how will you plan or management?
According to age of the patient and parity of the patient and size of the fibroid. Either we can
size and
Can you give conservative management in your case? Can you give?
No, ma'am.
In case of broad ligament fibroid, or we don't approach for a conservative management.
What is the size where you will say, suppose it is 3 centimeter fibroid? Will you go for that broad ligament 3 centimeter, 4 centimeter? You will go immediately. What madam is asking a right question. In which cases you will wait? In which cases you will be
exactly? This is important. This is very important.
Very important.
Very important.
If it's an asymptomatic patient, then we don't, we can wait.
No, small asymptomatic without giving any adhesions or the pressures to the surrounding important structures. Those you can observe, but not the big one, symptomatic or giving the pressure symptoms or having intracystic hemorrhages or degeneration. That you cannot wait. You have
Exactly.
to.
And you have to counsel the patient whether she wants the conservative management or whether she is wants to go for the operation.
And one
So
last question from
yes.
my side, one last question. How will you manage a broad ligament fibroid with pregnancy? Suppose she's a young patient and she is pregnant, and now she has a broad ligament fibroid, and the patient is very anxious. She said, "Oh, madam, what doctor? I want to continue the pregnancy." And so, how will you counsel that patient, and what you will do for that?
Asymptomatic and there's no pressure symptoms.
Size
based on the size.
One by one. Okay.
One by
Start.
one.
If the patient is asymptomatic and there are no pressure symptoms present, and if the size is a small size broad ligament fibroid, then we can wait.
And the second question patient will ask. Second question patient will ask whether my tumor will increase in size during pregnancy or will remain the same. What patient question will ask?
It will increase in size.
It can increase in size during
Always.
pregnancy.
Always.
Sorry to interrupt, ma'am. Ma'am, last 5 minutes.
Oh my God, sorry, we have not realized only. I saw madam had
it was
joined
going
here.
so smoothly there.
Dr. Uma Singh madam had joined. I saw her. Then I
No,
realized
but
that
we have already reached to management. We have already,
Yes, ma'am. You can
we have
continue
already
it
reached-
till we have 5
we have
minutes.
already, yeah. So your how you will plan which route of the method of surgery? How will you plan management?
If there can be either myomectomy can be done, or it can, in case of broad ligament fibroid, then there can be a laparoscopic approach or abdominal laparotomy can be done.
So how will you decide that this patient will go for laparoscopy and this patient directly go for laparotomy?
Based on the size of the size and the surrounding, if there are any additions like.
I mean, in this case, there were, many additions were present for which hysterectomy must be done for in that patient. So
that is after you have opened the abdomen, you find that there is adhesions. But before that, any criteria that you can go for laparotomy or laparoscopy, or you will manage like with this.
Based on the size of the fibroid.
Size, vascularity,
vascular
pressure symptoms, adherence to the ureter, or any hemorrhagic in that, big vessels on that. So I think that is they have done, I think, wonderful, and they have presented very well read. I think broad ligament itself is a very difficult topic. So you have done, I think, very nice, and I congratulate to all of you. And I wish you the huge success in the exams. So all my best wishes to all of you. And I must to Professor Madam.
One last question. Which are the newer modalities in fibroid? एक 2 minute बाकी है. Fibroid management.
Continue.
Embolization is there. There is MR guided.
5 minutes is okay. You can ask the question. No problem.
Pulmonary embolization has been tried now. MR, magnetic resonance, MRG, which is the focus ultrasound technique.
Now you tell me, does uterine artery embolization helps in a broad ligament, and how, if it helps, does it help really in the sense, and what is the percentage of collateral vascularization in that?
Ma'am, uterine artery embolization is not done for broad ligament fibroid.
And where is the question of these high frequency ultrasound?
It is not done in this case.
So as a student, when you are answering to, you drag the professor that way where you know the answer. So otherwise you should say ki this is the one thing, and then you will be, don't drag the professor examiners to the way where we will not able to answer. In
What
that.
are the complications of uterine artery embolization?
Ma'am, in uterine, there can be necrosis, there is uterine endometrial necrosis, there can be infection, there can be post-embolization syndrome where the emboli can, this person can cause all hypertension in the patient.
After 7 to 8 days after, due to necrosis of the tissue, due to
But is there a role of uterine artery embolization first in a fibroid uterus worldwide literature?
Pardon, ma'am?
Is there a role of uterine artery embolization in a world literature as a management of the fibroid?
Not approved.
Not
If the
approved.
wants to be pregnant,
And there is a very limited role of the uterine artery embolization. That is not the method of treating the things for this thing, unless you have a AV malformation and associated with the uterus, and then there is a role of this. How this uterine embolization is been done? What is the chemical that has been used in that?
Polyvinyl alcohol corticosteroids.
Okay, so what is the effect of that? So you will understand what are the complications with this.
after
and you have to think of two things. One, the patient wants the pregnancy, and another, the patient doesn't want next pregnancy.
Yes.
Exactly,
That's why I
exactly.
decide according to that.
Yes.
That's why they say is it is not being a very popular method of uterine artery embolization for the fibroid. Of course, we can use we are using for these obstetric cases like a PPH management and all,
Yes,
or
that
the
is right.
percrita. That is a different story in that. Okay.
What are
Anyway,
the long-term complications of myomectomy?
There can be
Intrauterine adhesions.
there can be reoccurrence of the fibroid.
And if she becomes pregnant,
Rupture of the scar gate.
Uterine
uterine
rupture.
Uterine
Classic.
placenta prurita.
Himani, please don't share the screen right now. We will inform you. Student of GCS, please.
Kindly
Hello.
kindly
we
minimize
can,
the-
Yes, it is very good discussion. I congratulate to the team. Hello.
Hina, wait. Please
हाँ,
stop
हाँ.
sharing your screen. Team GCS. Okay, Hina, carry on.
Congratulations to my students and to the AOGS team, Rajal Ben. Thank you very much.
I am also happy. After a long time, I'm seeing Rajal, Dipesh Bhai. Dipesh Bhai was my R4, the fourth year resident. It was a very good time with the Dipesh Bhai also.
Yes, yes.
thank you, the AOGS team. Thank you, Rajal madam. Thank you, Shashwat, for the introducing and very nice words to hear from Dr. Dholakia and one of the other senior sir. I don't remember his name. And thank you, Dr. Dipti madam, and thank you, Dr. Hina, and all the students. All the best for you for your exams and all. And thank you, Shashwat madam. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Rajal Ben, Shashwat, and all the AOGS team.
Hina, Dr. Rajeshri and Dr. Dipti and team BJMC. I hope the students have enjoyed and the teachers too have enjoyed.
Yes.
And
Yes, we have enjoyed.
also, whenever I am taking exam, instead of asking the question, I start teaching them. You have to do like this and that. And we are taking the exam.
Such examiners are the best examiners.
Yeah, this was like very much needed also, and for that fear factor goes. Once they
Yeah, definitely.
have attended it, that fear factor goes. So that is a very, very important thing.
Can I leave, madam?
Thank you so much, madam. Thank you, all the eminent faculty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, BJMC students.
Thank you.
Kalpa, Riji, Sefali, and Viva. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was a very nice presentation.
Thank you.
Over to Shashwat.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Now we are starting with our second case. that is anemia in pregnancy. And for that, we have eminent faculties, Dr. Harish Doshi, sir. Yes. Sir is a very well-known faculty. Our ex-vice president Foxy, and sir was president AOGS 2000 in 2003 and president of SOGOG 2004. Sir is right now working as a professor and head of the department at GCS Medical College, Ahmedabad. Second faculty is Dr. Uma Singh. Can we have the yes? Dr. Uma Singh, madam is a senior professor and head of the department, King George Medical College. She is also dean and KGMC Lucknow. She is faculty in medical education department, WHO fellow in gynec oncology, president of UP chapter of Association of Gynec Oncologists of India, and a governing council member of International Society of Critical Care in Pregnancy, and CME committee chair of AGOI. She is a nodal officer for cervical cancer screening program of UP government, NHM, and master trainer for emergency obstetric care. So I welcome you, Dr. Uma Singh, madam. And our third eminent faculty is very well known, Dr. Jitesh Shah, sir. He is working as assistant professor, was working as assistant professor at Government Medical College, Bhavnagar, and right now as a professor in Smear Medical College, Surat. So welcome, Dr. Jitesh Shah, sir. We have students of GCS Medical College. They are presenting case of anemia in pregnancy. Students are Dr. Himani Yadav, Nitin, Ashka, and Dr. Saksha Dholakia. So I welcome all of you. And we are. I request GCS student to share the screen for PPT presentation.
GCS students, you also give your introduction so that examiner can, if
yes,
you ask you by name, they can ask you by name. So your voice is yeah.
Yes, doctor.
You can give your introduction.
Please unmute your mic. Yes.
Good evening, respected teachers. This is Dr. Himani, R3 GCS Medical College.
Myself, Dr. Nitin Patel, third year resident, GCS Medical College.
I am Dr. Ashka, second year resident, GCS Medical College. I am Dr. Saksha, second year resident, GCS Medical College.
Okay, you can start with your presentation. All the best.
Thank you, Dr. Shashwat. Madam Umaben, welcome to AOGS this PG series. I would like to suggest that let the candidate finish the history and then you can comment, and after that we will start asking questions. So if you don't mind, madam, so let them finish the history in 10-15 minutes, what Rajal Ben has suggested, and then last half an hour we will have discussion.
Yes.
So we will not interrupt in between.
Yes,
right?
definitely.
And madam, you are an oncologist more than an obstetrician, it looks like.
Sir, I am oncologist by my passion, but I am basically a UG and PG teacher, hardcore UG and PG teacher.
Madam, I know you very well.
It is fine.
I just comment. Yes, Himani, you can start.
Please start.
Good evening. Presenting a case on anemia in pregnancy. Mrs. XYZ, 29 years, primary gravida, Hindu patient, residing at Naroda, educated till 10th standard, coming from lower socioeconomic strata, homemaker by profession, came at 8 months of amenorrhea in OPD with complaint of easy fatigability and decreased appetite since last 1 month. Patient was admitted for further evaluation and management of the same. Previously, the patient was able to manage work and household chores, but since last 1 month, she gets tired even with minimal work. Patient perceived her fetal movements well. No history of coughing, palpitations, and chest pain. No history of fetal edema, headache, or blurring of vision. No history of fever with chills and rigors. No history of burning micturition and hematuria. No history of passage of worms in stool. No history of trauma, hemoptysis, hematemesis, and melena. Menstrual history, patient attained her menarche at 13 years, a regular cycle of 28 days with a normal flow, not associated with dysmenorrhea or passage of clots. Patient's LMP was 30th November 2019 and her EDD was on 7th September 2020. History of present pregnancy. Patient detected her pregnancy at home with UPT testing done after 1 month of missed period. This was a spontaneous conception. Folic acid supplements were given. Dating scan was done, which corresponded well with her gestational age. Routine blood and urine investigations were given, which were normal. Nuchal translucency scan was done and was normal. No history of excessive vomiting. No history of craving for abnormal food. She felt quickening at 5 months. 2 doses of TD vaccine were administered. Anomaly scan was done at 5 months, which suggested no gross congenital anomalies and corresponded well with her gestational age. Prophylactic iron and calcium tablets were prescribed, but were not taken regularly by the patient. No history of elevated BP recordings or sugar levels. No history of blood transfusion. No history of any surgery. No history of any chronic urinary infection, worm infestation, malabsorption syndrome, renal, liver, or cardiorespiratory disease, thyroid disorders, hypertension, coagulation disorders, diabetes, tuberculosis, and epilepsy. No history of repeated blood transfusion or bleeding disorders in the family. Patient has mixed diet. Appetite has been reduced in the last month, was adequate previously. Normal sleep, normal bowel and bladder habits. No history of substance abuse or any drug allergy. General examination. Patient is conscious, cooperative, and well oriented to time, place, and person. Moderately built and nourished. Pulse of 90 beats per minute. Respiration 20 breaths per minute. BP 110/70. Right arm supine position. Patient is afebrile. Pallor is present. No icterus, clubbing, cyanosis, lymphadenopathy, or edema. Height 162 centimeters. Weight 62.2 kgs, and pre-pregnancy BMI was 22. Pallor seen in lower palpebral conjunctiva. Systemic examination, no gross abnormalities. Obstetric examination. On inspection, shape of abdomen is globular and longitudinally distended. Linea nigra and gravidarum present. Palpation, symphysiofundal height is 29 centimeters, corresponding with the gestational age. Uterus is relaxed, soft, and non-tender. On obstetric grips, fundal grip was suggestive of breech. Lateral grip, right-sided limbs were felt, whereas on the left side, resistance was felt, which was suggestive of spine. First pelvic grip suggested head, and second pelvic grip suggested that the head is not engaged. On auscultation, fetal heart sounds 140 beats per minute regular, heard in the left spino-umbilical line, 4 centimeters from the umbilicus. The investigations which were done post-admission, albumin was absent in urine, sugar absent, 1 to 2 pus. Patient had an HB of 7.4 gram%, blood group B positive, non-reactive.
Hello.
Audio gone.
Audio gone. Hello.
I think the students have some connectivity issue.
Yes. Hello.
Your
audio is not there, Imani.
Yes, sir.
Your audio, now you are audible. Yes. Go
on. Should I repeat the diagnosis again?
Yes.
Okay, sir. 29-year-old female with an obstetric score of Gravida 1, with history of 30 weeks of gestation and a single live intrauterine fetus, cephalic presentation with features suggestive of moderate anemia in pregnancy with no associated comorbidities. Thank you.
Madam, your comments on history. Uma, madam, your comments, any suggestion in the history?
So my question would be that suppose you are sitting in OPD and a patient, pregnant woman comes with the complaints which your patient suggested.
Yes, ma'am.
What could be the different conditions? Because this is one of the most common set of complaints which a woman with pregnancy comes with. What conditions come to your mind? Because till you do not recall those conditions, your history would be incomplete. So what are the conditions which come to your mind the moment you hear these set of complaints?
What are your complaints, your patient complaints?
Sir, easy fatigability and loss of appetite, difficulty in doing moderate work.
Okay. So what differential diagnosis come to your mind?
Sir, pregnancy per se is
okay.
A condition which can lead to all these conditions. Second,
why there is easy fatigability in pregnancy? Normally, patient complains, this is normal, right? You can say minor ailments of pregnancy. Yes, anybody?
Due to MSC's gravidarum.
That is okay. May not be in all patients, but fatigue will be there.
Hyperdynamic
Physiological anemia, decrease in HB.
No, that is, anemia is the second condition. First is normal pregnancy comes also, there is a easy fatigability. What madam wants to ask, what things can be there. One is normal pregnancy. Second is anemia, like that.
Cardiac disease in pregnancy.
Okay, cardiac disease in pregnancy can have easy fatigability. The exact cause is not known, but the increased activity the body has to do for the baby or blood volume to increase and hormonal changes. That all two things leads to easy fatigability during pregnancy. Right, so that when patient comes with some complaints, like say patient, as madam is asking, drawing your attention, some patient comes with edema. So what things come to your mind? In that way, in your case, you should think of normal pregnancy also, anemia of pregnancy also, as well as cardiac disease also. Madam, anything more?
Sir, excuse me, sir. Excuse me. Students, please stop sharing your screen. Otherwise, the teacher's video is not seen. So
Sorry, I'll just stop it.
Stop sharing. Yes. Thank
Is
you.
it okay now? Okay, ma'am.
Right. So the moment you think of these conditions, you must also think of how many times, what particular condition do you think of, do you get to see, and here by history, what conditions can you rule out? So suppose you have, in your case, you have just anemia, your history has to aim to do what related to anemia. What all things can you find out related to anemia just by history?
You have mentioned something, no. What is this?
Yes,
what
sir. A worm infestation,
Okay.
which can lead to anemia.
Okay.
Then abnormal eating behavior like pica, which I have mentioned, that can also lead to nutritional deficiency.
What is pica? What is pica? Sorry. It is hanged. Yes, it is not working, madam.
Audio is giving problem probably. Connection is giving problem.
Yes. Some problem.
Pregnancy, it's
Okay. Both pregnancy itself can lead to pica, and iron deficiency or malnutrition also can lead to pica. Okay.
Important point in menstrual history.
Related to anemia.
Related to anemia. Yes.
Can you hear, students?
I think they are having a connectivity issue.
Probably they have got disconnected, so we can maybe discuss in
Reconnect them. Yeah, you can Himani, yes, your screen is there.
Yes.
Dr. Himani, I'll stop your video because the network issue. I can stop your video. Please continue.
Okay.
Okay.
So should we also stop our videos?
No. Because of network issue, madam. They have a network issue. So if I stop the video, then the quality of audio will be better.
Okay.
So we will have a yes, Himani. Jitesh, Dr. Jitesh has asked what important in menstrual history.
So previous history of menorrhagia or heavy menstrual bleeding in her.
Okay, so that is common in our right. We have to think of. Then what else in history you can that guides you towards the anemia in pregnancy.
Non-compliance to iron supplements.
Non-compliance you have mentioned in your history. That is most important, right?
Sir.
Right. What time you start normally iron? In an antenatal case, what time you should start iron tablet? Yes.
Fourth month, at 4 months of.
Why not in first month?
Sir, in certain animal studies, iron has shown to be teratogenic.
Okay. Anything else?
it has also been associated with abortions, hyperemesis gravidarum.
Less requirement during
Yes,
requirement during first trimester. Only requirement during first trimester 1 milligram per day. That is, we can gain from normal our diets.
Right. And also patient is having morning sickness, so there is a problem. And if you see the blood changes in hemodynamic changes in pregnancy, the RBC mass increases after 8 weeks, not from the first week. So the RBC only wants the iron. So there is no requirement also, as Nitin has mentioned. So you have to always start from second trimester. There are many reasons why you don't start in first trimester. Even if your patient is anemic, right, we start from second trimester. Yes. Anything else, madam, you want to add to this? Yes. Okay. What is, you have said 2 doses of TD. Can you clarify what is the government now recommendation for tetanus?
Tetanus toxoid vaccine has now been replaced by the TD vaccine, which as well covers the diphtheria component.
What is Tdap?
Pertussis.
No, what is the recommendation?
Tdap is
Is it routinely given?
so you're not audible.
Sorry, it is routinely given or not? My audio
Yes, sir, it
is
is routinely given now.
Yes.
Tdap. Sorry, Tdap.
Tdap is not routinely given, sir.
It is costly, but IAP, Indian Association of Pediatrics, they are very strong about it. They want to give it to every pregnant woman after 26 weeks of pregnancy. Just remember that. Just now, our government of India only recommends TD, and TT is to be replaced by TD. Okay, that you have mentioned. Fine. Now your patient is having, right, what gram? 7.4 gram hemoglobin and 30 weeks. How will you further proceed?
Because the patient was,
yes. Sorry. Go ahead.
so because the patient was non-compliant to oral iron, hence parenteral iron therapy would be considered in this patient.
So would you like to investigate her, or just only hemoglobin is adequate to start your management?
Ma'am,
we should go for investigation like peripheral blood smear or RBC indices.
Okay. Anything else?
Which are the things included in complete hemogram?
hemoglobin, hematocrit, mean corpuscular volume, mean corpuscular hemoglobin, and mean corpuscular hemoglobin concentration.
Okay.
Reticulocyte count.
What all informations can you get by a peripheral smear? And is it a real value?
Ma'am, peripheral smear.
First of all, in the RBCs, we can get whether it is microcytic, hypochromic, macrocytic, anisocytosis, poikilocytosis, all those. Even the WBC and platelets, we can get.
Any abnormal form like
any parasitic infections can show up.
Very good. Yes.
Any abnormal form like Hans body or Wells body, we can identify.
Reticulocyte count also, reticulocyte.
So coming to disease-wise, enumerate the diseases which can be diagnosed by peripheral smear.
Malaria can.
Okay.
Anemia and its varieties.
Anemia and its
megaloblastic anemia.
Yes, so mention that these are the type of the cells and by which we can conclude these clinical conditions. Because it is a very cost-effective, worthy investigation by which you can diagnose this, and these conditions. That makes the complete answer.
Yes. What are the other investigations? One is
kinetic studies.
Sorry.
Iron profile.
Iron profile.
Iron
What is
profile.
that? Iron profile means what?
Serum iron, ferritin, serum transferrin saturation.
Which is the first to decrease? See, there are all these indices are altered in anemia. Which is the first one which gets affected?
Serum ferritin.
Ferritin. Very good. So always, right, is a store part. But right. So are you doing regularly in your anemic patients serum iron, TIBC, and all that? Are you doing it? Give me the correct answer.
No, sir. Routinely, it is not done.
Yeah, it is costly, and like in hypertensive patients or any patients with convulsion, we take it eclampsia unless proved otherwise. Same here, anemia we are taking iron deficiency because the most common, and even other anemias also. Which are the other anemias? You know?
Megaloblastic anemia,
Sickle cell anemia.
sickle cell anemia.
So these are hemoglobinopathies and megaloblastic. They have also associated iron deficiency always in our patients because we have such type of diet and other habits. So that is always there. So iron, you can start tablet whatever way you want to give, but before, if your response is not there, then you think of further investigation. But ideally in theory or exam, you must mention iron profile also and then start. Suppose the patient is having thalassemia, what will be her iron normally?
So there is iron overload because of hemolysis. So we should not give iron in thalassemia.
So if you give iron, what will happen? If you give iron,
Sorry, sir.
if you give iron to such people, what will happen?
Iron overload too.
Sir, iron deposits in the tissues and
Eventually
vital
leads
organs.
to
Organ
Okay. Already it is there in thalassemia patients and you are giving more iron, so they will have more problems. So what is the antidote of iron?
desferrocin.
Or second one? Desferrexamine is given parenterally only. Other one is depromine is given orally also. That's why it is better. Okay. Now tell me why we are worried of anemia in pregnancy.
Which are the complications?
Okay.
Sir, in first trimester, it can lead to abortions.
Okay.
And in every trimester of pregnancy, anemia can precipitate heart failure.
Okay. Maximum at what time? Every
Sir, immediately after delivery.
No.
Immediately during labor.
Pregnancy. During
pregnancy.
During pregnancy at 32 weeks of gestation, sir.
Why?
Because that is the time when the cardiac output is maximum, volume expansion is maximum at 32 weeks of gestation.
Not output is secondary, maximum hemodilution occurs that time.
Hemodilution is maximum.
So you have to say always range, not fixed 32, 30 to 34 weeks, whatever range, but that is late, right? You can say. Fine, and early.
There are other complications in pregnancy which can occur if there is associated anemia.
Ma'am, can you please repeat?
What other problems can be seen if pregnancy is associated with anemia? You specifically mentioned in first trimester, then you mentioned CHF patient. That is actually effect of pregnancy on anemia. In pregnancy itself, what could be the problems if there is anemia?
In anemia, there is also patient immunity is low, so there is chances of higher chance of asymptomatic bacteria to the patient and any antepartum antenatal complication like prematurity, low birth weight, fetal growth restriction. And during labor, there is chances of maternal exhaustion or any uterine inertia or chances of postpartum hemorrhage. In puerperium, there is chances of subinvolution of the uterus and puerperal sepsis and thromboembolism.
Lactation failure can occur due to
Delayed
anemia.
recovery. Delayed
How PPH occurs? How PPH occurs in anemia? How does it affects?
Anemia itself, patient hemoglobin level is low. If even during third trimester,
even a small amount of blood loss decompensates, leads to a large overload on the patient. So even small blood loss leads to significant morbidity to the patient. Hence, PPH chances are increased in an anemic patient.
What else? Why? One is that there always there is a deficit and then there is a loss. Anything else? Why atony occurs? Uterus also requires oxygen to contract. So there is less oxygenation of the uterus also. So that's why also PPH, atonic PPH can occur, right? So that you're right, that small amount of loss is decompensating the patient and there will be problem, right? So how will you manage your patient? Now start.
So since the patient
Your
is,
case,
sorry?
Your case,
Parenteral iron therapy would be considered in this patient because patient is already non-compliant to oral iron.
The patient is suppose compliant.
Then we can definitely try oral iron in this patient because she is just
What are the protocol for giving oral iron? Protocol means how do you advise to start oral iron to the patients? Suppose patient is not taking up till now, patient has come now today only and she is compliant. How will you advise some instructions to the patient for oral
the
iron?
patient is ideally iron absorption is more if taken before meals, but
Okay.
side effects increase and hence patient compliance also decreases.
Okay.
And patient is always advised to take iron with meals
Okay.
between 2 meals.
Okay.
And
Anything else?
apart from the supplements, iron-rich food should also be given to the patient.
Very good. What are these?
Vitamin C
Which are these?
increases the absorption.
Sir, vitamin C, citric acid, lactic acid
will increase the absorption
will
of the
increase the iron absorption. Patient should also be advised to cook in iron utensils so that
That is may not be practical, but otherwise you patient always, when suppose you pass MD after 3 months, MS, I mean, see. So patient in your interior always asks, Madam, kya khane ka? What should we eat? So always you remember what food contains good iron. That is, you should be our advice. Then how the oral iron should be taken, with what it is to be taken, so absorption is more. And always tell from the beginning that there will be some side effects. That is important. Otherwise, the compliance will go. So always tell the patient some gastric upset will be there, maybe diarrhea, constipation also. Then they are more compliant. You don't tell, you start this is required for pregnancy, and then patient give up because they are not informed well about the side effects. So always inform about the side effects. Now your patient.
Just a second, doctor. Apart from what to eat to improve iron absorption, I think you need to give advice also what not to eat. When
Yes.
the iron is being given. So just give us some examples which you will tell the patient, don't take iron with this.
Carbohydrate rich in phosphate and phosphate, we should advise patient not to take because it decrease it convert into insoluble phytate or iron salt, so decrease its absorption.
antacids should be avoided.
Very good. What else?
They are very
Milk
fond of
also
having
should be
tea.
Tea, yes.
Tea. So subah
Yes,
ke
tea and coffee should be avoided 2 hours post meal.
Yeah, so tea is very important. And remember calcium supplementation.
Yes.
The patient must be advised not to take iron and calcium together. There are many preparations which were giving iron and calcium together. This must be strictly told to them. Very important is when you are starting iron for iron deficiency anemia, is there role of deworming?
Yes, ma'am. There is definite
Never
role of
start the
deworming.
treatment of iron deficiency anemia without giving deworming. Please do always
Yes,
give that. Associated
Yes,
diets,
ma'am.
as you mentioned, are always important for that. All
Okay.
right.
Which parasite infection leads to anemia?
Iron oral supplementation. How do you know that the patient is taking it? And for how long would you wait to see that the effect is coming?
If the
What
patient
amount
is
of
taking
drug
it regularly,
and how many times?
ma'am, there is if an anemic patient is taking iron tablets regularly, there would be an improved outlook of the patient.
As for the color of
Color of the stools, metallic color, and patient can even be asked to bring the empty packets of the iron tablets to check for compliance.
Okay. And what else? First you said what?
Improved outlook,
And that is
color
it.
of
Color of
stools.
Color of
Skin of the lady, you mean? It
I
will
think we
Yeah.
have lost the connection.
It will take some time for the color
Yeah.
of the skin. to
Yeah. So you can ask the right color of the stool rather than the skin. Right?
Color
When will you expect the improvement after starting the oral therapy?
2 weeks. After around 2 weeks.
After 1 week, there is increased reticulocyte count, and we get the result of iron after two weeks of starting of oral therapy. And then every weekly, the iron increase 0.8 gram per deciliter.
0.8 to 1 gram per cent. So reticulocyte count first. So you should not remember the normal erythropoietic cycle. That is going to happen in that patient. So when you give iron, what else also you will give to the patient?
Folic acid should
Okay.
also be given.
Okay, what else?
Vitamin B.
Vitamin
Zinc
B12.
and-
Okay, what else?
Zinc, copper,
What
vitamin
else?
C.
What other
What
things
else?
required
What
for in
else?
erythropoiesis?
Important.
Vitamin B12.
You said folic acid, vitamin B12, copper, zinc, all. Anything else? Hemoglobin. Hemoglobin.
Look at
Globin.
the structure. Look at the structure.
Protein-rich food.
Protein.
Protein-rich food. Protein-rich food or protein powder
Protein or
supplement.
protein-rich food. Always must. That is only iron will not increase hemoglobin. So always have that type of advice to the patient. Now parenteral iron, how will you give?
How much iron? How much oral iron? Because we probably have to remember what is the prophylactic iron therapy and how much is for the treatment.
Therapeutic.
So the
Yes.
dosage.
Okay.
For,
Yes.
for the treatment, we give 200 milligram elemental iron and 1000 microgram folic acid.
And
Okay.
for
Prophylactic 60 mg of elemental iron is given.
Elemental iron. What is the GOI recommendation, Government of India?
According to the Anemia Book Bharat program, which has been started by the Government of India, 60 mg elemental iron and 400 micrograms of folic acid have been recommended. This should be started from 4th month of amenorrhea, should ideally be continued 180 days in the pregnancy and 180 days postpartum.
Fine. Very good. So it is to be always continued postpartum. Yes. Now you want to give parenteral iron. What will you give and how will you give?
Sir, for considering parenteral iron therapy, we have two options of, though we have many options, most commonly used are the iron sucrose and the ferric carboxy maltose, but because of the cost expenses, iron sucrose is the preferred one.
Okay. How do you give?
Iron sucrose,
Yes.
sir, 200 milligram of iron sucrose is given in 100 cc of NS, and it is given over 15 to 20 minutes. It should ideally be given after hospitalizing the patient and should always be given under supervision.
Can you give in
Because,
5% dextrose? Can you give in 5% dextrose?
No, sir, dextrose leads to the iron combination is unstable in dextrose solution. So
Becomes
every
unstable.
time,
Can you give like previous injection we were giving intramuscular? Can you give iron sucrose intramuscular?
iron sucrose cannot be given intramuscularly.
How will you calculate the dose?
For dose calculation, sir, 2.4 into hemoglobin deficit into weight of the patient in kilograms to correct the iron plus 1000 mg is always added for the replenishment of the stores.
And what is the reference value by which you calculate the deficit?
11.
No.
14 is taken as the reference
Not
value, ma'am.
11. If 11 से किया तो बहुत कम हो जाएगा.
14 is the ideal value, ma'am. 14 is the ideal value.
So 14 is the reference value by which you calculate the deficit and always. Just tell me which are the cases you feel in actual practice fit for parenteral therapy, indications of parenteral therapy.
Ma'am, just like our case, a non-compliant patient, a patient
Okay.
of known malabsorption syndrome.
Okay.
Patient presented 30 to 32 weeks of gestation with moderate anemia.
Non-responsive to oral SGI side effects.
You have already given it. and
Patient
there is
cannot
no response.
tolerate non-compliant malabsorption syndromes and
Fine. So
What about postnatal condition? The strongest indication for anemia, this parenteral iron therapy. Always remember, a postnatal case is the strongest.
Postnatal patient.
Yes, postnatal patient.
postnatal, which degree of hemoglobin you will consider as anemia? Postnatal.
HB of less than 10 gram per deciliters and a
Yes.
hematocrit of less than 30%.
Very good. During pregnancy?
Right.
Sir, during pregnancy, we have trimester-wise division
So postnatal is less, remember, and as that's what madam is telling, that you have to give. This is very good. Patient is in your ward or maybe there, and then you can give postnatally. There is no special requirement for admission and other things. And you can, patient may not come up, like pregnancy patient comes to you frequently for visits. So that is a good thing that to start postnatal parenteral iron therapy. What are the indications of blood transfusion in anemia in pregnancy?
Very severe anemia in pregnancy at any period of gestation is a indication for blood transfusion.
And
What type of blood transfusion?
Sorry, ma'am.
What does very severe mean?
Ma'am, your voice is breaking.
HB less than 5 gram per.
Severe means hemoglobin.
Very severe.
Very severe.
Very severe is less than 4 grams per deciliter, and severe anemia is less than 7 grams per deciliter. ma'am.
4 and below is very severe.
Yes, right. So any gestational age, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Then WHO, RCOG, our government says different, say 6 gram and 5 gram. Very severe, there is no question. Patient may be in somewhat breathlessness or failure, but otherwise less than 6 gram. But we are on a liberal side in treatment, and we up to 7 gram straight away give blood transfusion. What blood transfusion you give? What component of blood?
Sir, packed cells. Packed cells are preferred.
What increase in
over whole
hemoglobin?
blood.
What increase in hemoglobin it causes? How much?
1 unit of RCC.
0.7 to 1 grams per deciliter over 1 to 3 days is seen
Depend-
after giving one PCV.
Depends upon what? This rise, you said 0.7 to 1. This much rise, 0.7 in one patient, one in second patient, depends upon what? Simple.
Depends on iron.
Not iron.
Patient profile itself.
No, weight of the patient. So blood volume is according to the weight of the patient, and hemoglobin of the transfused blood donor, right? But average you can say 0.8 to 1 gram. So, right? So what is patient blood management? Something new. Patient blood management. Have you heard it? Patient blood management. Anybody?
It is autologous blood transfusion.
Not that. It is nothing new. It is same that new thing has come last 10 years, that you apply all strategies during antenatal period, labor and postpartum period, so that patient is not losing her blood. So in antenatal period, you give good iron and build up her hemoglobin. In intrapartum period, the blood loss should be decreased by whatever active management of third stage of labor and all that. And postnatal also you continue with iron therapy. So patients own, like we are earning for ourselves, like we have some enough stock, whatever, with us, right? Same way, it is patient blood management is patients should not require the blood transfusion. That was the thing. What is, tell me, I think what time is there, Madam Rajalben? What time is left out? If Rajalben is there?
Still 10 minutes to go.
Okay. In folic acid deficiency, right, anemia, how will you manage? Folic acid, how will you diagnose and how will you manage?
Folic acid deficiency anemia mostly present as a refractory to iron therapy. So we can go for further management with whether which type of anemia is present, because patient is not responding to that type of therapy.
Even it would be a megaloblastic type of anemia.
Yes, so diagnosis will be there. Then peripheral smear megaloblast may be there, like that. In a Buffy coat layer, you have all the features of this megaloblastic, but otherwise simple peripheral smear also you have a macrocytic, not hypochromic microcytic anemia. Which are the other causes of microcytic anemia?
Sir, iron deficiency anemia, sideroblastic anemia, thalassemia, anemia of chronic diseases.
Right. So, and also sometimes copper deficiency also. So these are the microcytic anemia, but not hypochromic, all these. So when it is hypochromic also, you think of, right, iron deficiency more. And iron deficiency always more. So which is more common, thalassemia or sickle cell disease?
Thalassemia is more common, sir.
Which is more dangerous? Which is more dangerous, thalassemia or sickle cell disease?
Sickle cell.
Okay. Suppose it is sickle cell. Suppose it is thalassemia minor and patient comes to you, known case of minor. How will you manage? C is a mild anemia. Normally C has hemoglobin 9 gram, 9.5 gram. How will you manage? Thalassemia, beta thalassemia.
First of all, the patient's husband should be encouraged to get his HB
Very good.
electrophoresis done, so that we
Right.
can know the thalassemia status of the husband. Because if in any case both of them are carriers of thalassemia,
Right.
there is 25% probability that the child would be thalassemia major.
So how will you detect that? Husband is also minor. Yes. How will you further
Then,
proceed?
sir, for the child, we can
Yes.
amniocentesis and chorionic villus sampling can be offered.
So what age chorionic villi biopsy and what age
At 10
amniocentesis?
to 13 weeks of gestation, chorion. At 10
Yes.
to 13 weeks of gestation,
Very
chorionic
good.
villus and
Yes. Anyone?
And at 18 to 20 weeks, we can.
Nowadays
Sir, your
what?
voice is breaking.
Nowadays what they are doing? Suppose patient has money. What investigation you do?
Non-invasive prenatal
Yes,
testing, sir.
NIPT.
Non-invasive prenatal.
NIPT can also diagnose single gene. It is not only for Down syndrome and all that. So it can also diagnose the single gene disorders. These are autosomal recessive disorders. So NIPT should be offered and accordingly decisions should be taken. Suppose it is positive. Baby is 1 in 4, that is 25% thalassemia major. What will you advise? You have done
MTP
NIPT.
should be.
Yes, MTP should be advised.
termination of pregnancy.
Right, right. What is in sickle cell? How will you manage sickle cell anemia in pregnancy? Sickle cell.
So, sickle cell anemia patient once in every HB level should be done once in every trimester of pregnancy.
Okay.
And blood transfusion should be considered every time we feel that the hemoglobin of the patient is low.
Okay.
Usually, sickle cell anemia patients, they have no issues. However, in conditions of deoxygenation, sickle cell crisis can occur. And
Only
especially
deoxygenation? What are the conditions in pregnancy?
other conditions such as infections,
Right.
such
Cold, stress, or
cold,
any
stress,
overexertion.
So that
exercise
can
or any type
precipitate
of
crisis. So suppose crisis has occurred. What are the principles of management? Suppose patient is known case of sickle and crisis because of whatever reason, infection, cold, right, dehydration, stress, less oxygenation, whatever. What
Give
immediate-
oxygenation and we go for
oxygenation and hydration,
what happens?
antibiotic
Crisis
coverage.
means what happens? What actually happens? What crisis means? What?
In crisis, sir, due to continuous sickling and desickling of the RBCs, the
thrombosis of various
Vessels.
Okay. So vaso-occlusive crisis is the most dangerous. The patient will complain of pain and severe pain and anemia, right? So that's why both things you have to treat: analgesics and also blood transfusion. Oxygenation and other things are there, antibiotics and all that. But analgesics, patient is in severe pain and then also some anemia, severe anemia may develop, and that's why you have to treat that, right, accordingly. Okay.
Now I think we must concentrate on how is the labor management done in a patient who was never here for antenatal period, suddenly comes to us with anemia in labor, management of the patient.
Ma'am, in the first stage of labor, patient should be kept to bed, should not be allowed to ambulate, should be kept in a propped up position.
Propped up position, yes.
Liberal oxygenation should be
Checked
liberal
and
oxygenation should be provided to the patients.
Okay.
Labor
What
analgesia can be considered in such patients.
Okay.
And we should restrict our
Fluid management, Jitesh sir is asking. Yes.
Fluids should be restricted. IV fluids should be restricted in such patients because anytime such patients can go into failure.
Very good. Okay.
And in fact, IV diuretics can also be considered to
Only if she is in failure. No, not required, not needed.
For second stage of labor,
edema, or if she has features of failure, then only you have to give
diuretics. Yes.
Yeah. Then what else?
Second stage.
In second stage, the second stage of labor should be cut short.
Cut short by forceps or any
Or vacuum.
Only if it is prolonged. You may
Or
elect.
a gastric episiotomy to decrease the blood loss.
Yes.
Active management of third stage of labor and post-delivery also
Now
patients.
to tell me, this is not in this case, but for every case, the current WHO recommendations, components of AMTSL, active management of third stage of labor, 1, 2, 3, 4. क्या है उसमें? What is that?
Uterotonics should be given after delivery of anterior shoulder.
That is okay. Which is the common they have suggested?
Oxytocin.
Controlled contraction.
Many, but oxytocin, what, how, when? You have to tell
Okay.
exactly.
10 units of intramuscular oxytocin should be given.
Intramuscular. Up till now, we were not giving. Last few years, we have started with this recommendation that IM oxytocin and 2 ampoules, 10 units, right? You have to give straight as soon as the baby is delivered. Yes, then what else?
It is not to be timed with anterior shoulder delivery. And
Yes. Not with anterior shoulder is gone now. Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes. Second component.
Controlled contraction.
उसके पहले बेबी के साथ कौन है? Is attached to baby. You will get contraction with the baby. Delayed clamping, 30 seconds to 3 minutes, right? Then, right, control contraction and fundal, right, checking, only fundal checking. You have exactly, these are given word by word by the WHO, so please remember that for your exam, right? Okay, always.
What precaution has to be taken immediately after delivery in a case who was anemic?
Immediately after delivery, there is rapid redistribution of the blood volume.
What do you have to do?
And
yes, so that causes what?
ma'am, please repeat the question, please.
So I said ki due to
Patient
that,
can go into cardiac failure, postpartum cardiac failure.
Yes.
It has to be checked for. Patient should not be left alone for at least 2-3 hours post delivery.
No, what do you have to do? 2-3 hours बहुत देर है. Immediately after delivery, what should you do so that she does not go in the cardiac failure?
Yes.
Continue oxygen.
Okay, one. What else?
Oxygen.
Okay. Cardiac patient, what you do?
Anti-failure drugs can be tried.
Yes.
Sorry?
What drug? What drug will you give now, which Dr. Hitesh has said, not necessarily, Haresh has said, not necessarily to be given?
Diuretics
and position of the patient.
Patient.
Normally, immediately after delivery, women have a tendency to lie down flat. After this case, position?
Simple.
Propped up.
Yeah, keep her
Propped up
position
itself.
for that initial 1 hour must. Propped up position, oxygenation, and sometimes if there is a crisis, hang her legs down.
Yes, like cardiac patients.
Like
Immediately
cardiac
the legs are right at the edge of the table or at the edge of the cot, legs are down and the venous return is not increased.
Yes.
Right? Please.
Till the effect of diuretic comes, hang her legs down. If she's on the verge of going into CHF, keep her propped up. This is very important for this period. And when do you shift the patient out of labor room? This patient out of labor room. Is it that just 1 hour only? Or after she passes urine? Or should it be prolonged in a case of anemia?
It should be prolonged in a case of anemia.
You wait for what?
For 3 to 4 hours.
Yes, minimum. And blood transfusion to be given during this period, concentrated and diuretic.
Required, right? What is exchange blood transfusion? Severe anemia. Yes.
In case patient's blood is slowly cleared and recipient blood is introduced in the patient's body. In cases where anemia is associated with cardiac failure and even in sickle cell disease, partial exchange transfusion has been tried.
With failure due to any reason, you can give this because if you give simple PCV also, it will increase the load. So you have to remove the blood which is in excess of 200 ml and then you slowly transfuse. But when you do this, you have to do at least by 3 units of PCV, right? Minimum 3 units of PCV if you have planned, then and then go for blood exchange transfusion. Otherwise, it is not much helpful, right? Okay, what is which community in the world does not allow blood
transfusion?
Blood that will not
some
freeze.
Christians,
Jewish.
Johamian Christians, I think.
Jehovah's.
Yes, yes.
Jehovah's.
They are always refusing. They will not sign to your. You have to take consent when you give to blood to any patient. So they will not sign this. And for them, they are funding and giving money to research the other component, rather oxygen carriers, hemoglobin, artificial oxygen carriers, rather than human blood. So that you must remember. Okay, I think, Madam, you want to ask something more.
So important is the contraception now left, that this patient who
Yes.
has anemia background, severe anemia, now has delivered. What contraceptive advice can you give to them?
Progesterone only.
Progesterone only pills.
Okay.
Injection methotrexate, progesterone acetate.
Okay.
Lactational amenorrhea itself can be explained if patient is.
LM method, very good. Property.
IUCDs can be considered but should be avoided in anemia patients.
It's okay because IUCD may precipitate some irregular, heavy blood loss or infection, but otherwise, right? It is right. Okay. So it is option when other things are not there. But otherwise, you cannot give pills because patient is lactating, and naturally, your patient is like primary. You will not advise for sterilization, and that you also not want to do in a.
Till how long should she take iron preparation after delivery if she has been anemic?
You have answered.
Minimum 180 days, ma'am. 6 months postpartum. 6 months postpartum.
No, 180 days is for normal women of our community.
For 1 year?
For simply till in the postnatal period, they do not resume a normal hemoglobin. They must continue to have iron preparation, because in subsequent pregnancies, again, there would be this issue of the deficiency which they start with. So it has to be checked. It cannot be just left with an advice that you take iron. All right.
Yeah. I think we have
Yes.
completed the case, sir. Doshi sir, Uma madam, and Jitesh, you can sum up, then I'll conclude your experiences.
No, I think there is not.
Camera. Students can now switch on their camera.
Okay. The point is, this is because like a rehearsal type of thing, and right, for giving them a practice, the case is known to them, but otherwise in exam, naturally the case is not known to them. This is anemia and they have prepared in that way. So, but again, at the same time, the important thing is anemia is there in every case. Previous cesarean case, breech presentation, anemia is so common and very important cause of our maternal mortality, along with hemorrhage, indirect cause. So that's why they should prepare anemia very thoroughly. And Madam has definitely pointed out some basic questions, that how it should be done, what investigation, peripheral smear and all that. So that because sometimes in postgraduate exam, they know very much high-fi level, but basic they forget. So they have to always remember that while preparing for the exam. Okay. Yes, Madam.
So thank you very much. It was a good opportunity. And I know seemingly it seems a simple case, but sometimes you get caught in such simple conditions also. Best of luck. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Jitesh.
Thank you.
Comments? Jitesh. Dr. Jitesh, I think we lost his connection.
Maybe. Okay, now on behalf of Jitesh and myself, I thank you, Madam. Right, Jitesh was my resident. Now he is a professor. Right, so thank you very much for nicely organizing this AOGS PG lecture series. And at least, even if next year you are not president, please continue with this. This is very much required for our PGs. That's why.
Yeah. Sir, learning from you only that you were the key person on organizing the force. and
Yeah.
continuing that
Yeah.
tradition. And every time, even they last year also, and 3-4 years when I was organizing, I had always a query whenever a few students can come, rest were busy in the emergency, some were stuck up in the traffic. So I think this corona's the positive side of it is very good that we are meeting through webinar, and for all students there is a link. So we will be putting it on the AOGS YouTube channel, so you can refer it later on also. So some students like second year, first year still who haven't attended this time.
Yes,
they
you are
can
very right.
So
You are
it
very right.
revise it also. So I think this is a very positive effect of COVID that we have been meeting. And the mock exam, Uma madam cannot come from Lucknow, but she is here with us. Jitesh
Yes,
cannot come from Surat, but he is here. So it's a very good for the students also, and like meeting all faculty also, for us also, that we have been interacting quite happily and very effectively. We can save lots of time, lots of money, and also our health is improved, because all the time we are eating outside food whenever function, and then even if we are not hungry, we are eating something extra. So it is good for our health part also.
For anemia also. Sir, it is blessing in disguise for Zoom meeting, is blessing in disguise for Corona, by Corona, right? Okay.
So
Thank you.
with that, I thank all the faculty of this session, Dr. Harish Bhai, Dr. Uma Madam, and Dr. Jitesh. I also thank the faculties of the first session, Dr. Hina, Dr. Deepti, and Dr. Rajashri Madam, students, both the team of GCS and BJMC. I thank my coordinators, Shashwat, and all my AOGS managing committee and the team. And also I thank our technical team of the Sun Pharma for the technical support, because we have been planning it, and then we are doing it a rehearsal with the students. So every time they are ready with whatever, whenever we ask them to do so. And the students are having a prelims exam from 16th. So that week we are not doing any case discussion. The third webinar is on 27th with 2 cases. One is of previous cesarean section and gynec cases of prolapse. So we are having a very good faculty. Already it has been decided. So stay tuned and we will be posting you the details. Thank you so much, and thank you very much. Once again.
Thank you and good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night. Jitesh, you want to add something? You were lost in between. Jitesh.
Yes, my connection was lost in between.
Yeah, so your yes.
Madam, very nice. Very nice interaction was there online.
Yes.
And students were able to interact with many faculties.
That is great. Yes.
Okay. With that, thank you very much and good night. Bye-bye.
Good night. Thank you, madam.
Good night.
Good night.
Abhijit, are you there?
We can close.
Yeah. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Bye. Good night.
Yeah, good night.